covering both framework and some of the other miscellaneous usability and a few other things that we're going to show here. Just wanted to share a quick agenda before getting right into the content. So yeah, like I said, we'll share some framework updates. So Amanda is here to share with us. Then we're going to have a few tool enhancements, including selection and some move updates that we have for 2025. And then finally, and then Kevin is going to share that for us. And then I'll jump back in here to share a few other selection updates and a little bit more about the copilot beta updates that we have for 2025. So yeah, I think from my side, we can go straight into it. Amanda, you want to go ahead and share?
Thanks, Chema. The new feature that we've added for HyperMesh 2025 from the framework side. First off, we create a folder now that's called Altair crash files _ process ID. So they each have unique identifiers, and we put the files in there. The user can change the directory into which we save these by setting the HW crash reports folder to environment variable to any directory into which they have write permissions. This is actually not a new environment variable. It's been around for some time, but we are using it for this as well. So now in 2025, in the case of a crash, the user will see a pop-up dialog which informs them of the location of these diagnostics files, as well as how to change that location in the future. So I am going to do a quick demo, just so everybody can kind of see it in action. I'm going to start by showing you some of my environment variables. You can see I have my HW crash reports folder set to a directory called HW crash dumps. And I also have logging set up. These are just our standard logging. If I go to this folder, you'll see it's now currently empty. I am going to go ahead and launch HyperMesh. Usually I would try to have it up and running by this point, but I wanted to demonstrate this for you. You can see at this point, we have this file, this folder, which has been created in this directory. It's created on launch. So you can see that file folder was created. This is just our normal HyperMesh session. Before I do this, let me go in here, and this is empty. So we've created the folder, but nothing is in it right now. Now, we have a way to trigger a crash. Don't try this at home. All right, so you can see I've made HyperMesh crash. I do get our normal dialog asking if I want to save the model, which would be helpful if I had a model. And now this is our new pop-up dialog. It does give the location. It lets the user know that we've collected files. It lets them know where, and it tells them that if they want to change this location, they can set that environment variable. So now HyperMesh has crashed. Now, if I go into this folder, you'll see I have a number of files here. I've got my dump file. Oh, this one just popped in. I have my dump file. I have a list of environment variables. I have the log file. If logging is set up, if the user doesn't have logging set up, they won't get this file. They'll get all the other ones. We have a little one that gives the version info. This is very helpful when it comes to matching it with the dump files. And then we have captured their system information along with some other details. That's what we have implemented. Going forward, oh, and I did also want to note that directory that we have created, if there is no crash, if HyperMesh executes normally and you shut down and there is no crash, this folder gets deleted. We're not populating this directory with a bunch of empty folders. So it is created on startup. If shutdown is normal and there is no crash, it goes away. Moving forward, we do expect to do some future enhancements in later versions. Specifically, we would like to collect some additional files. This first subset were some of the key ones that we often need to ask for, but we would like to also generate and collect some additional ones, things like maybe a list of Python modules that the user has installed, language packs, the license log, in addition to the standard HyperMesh log, and maybe also some information about their Altair installation, which of our products they have installed and which versions. We also plan to add support for batch mode use cases, which is not currently supported. We've been requested to add a command line argument to allow the user to turn it off completely from that side of things. And we do plan to update the preferences dialog to add a section that will allow the user some additional control. We would probably allow them to set that directory from the preferences dialog instead of going in and setting the environment variable, but also we would like to give them some additional control over which diagnostics files are saved and which are not. There may be reasons that people don't want particular information collected. So we want to give them that control, and that would be for a future version. So hopefully this will really help the process of diagnosing and fixing these random crashes, any crashes really, but particularly the random ones. Hopefully this will make them go more smoothly in the future, reduce that turnaround time, and make everybody's life a little bit easier.
Hi everyone, this is Kevin D'Souza, and I'm a program manager in the digital product design team. Today I'll be taking over some of the updates to the Move tool that we have done in HyperWorks 2025. So we'll be doing most of this in the demo, but here's a slide summarizing some of the changes that are coming in 2025. Primarily, the Move manipulator is now available as an independent button. So this basically means your selection and move operations are separate and they don't individually interfere with each other anymore. And we have support for the control click action, similar to the vector tool, directly on the move manipulator now, which means you can pick 2 points or three points to define a vector or a plane normal to quickly move. We also have a bunch of bug fixes. So before we get into the 2025 version, I'd like to quickly go to a version prior to 2025 and talk about some of the pain points that we had here. So in the Move tool, when you make a selection, we automatically draw the manipulator on the screen. And sometimes this could be on the way of the object that you wanted to pick. And many times, if you're not really being careful, you would have seen that you might end up actually doing a move operation when you actually intended to pick something or get something out of the way. This, for example, let's say I want to do a window drag over here, and I'm going to start from this location. You can already see that there's a problem here because I'm already on a picked or a selected portion of the model, and Move tool thinks I want to snap from here. So if I do a window drag from here, it's going to move the elements away, which is probably not what I wanted. Also, similarly, if my Move tool is overlapping over my picked object, and if I wanted to unselect some of these elements, if I hold Shift, because we use the Shift shortcut to also reposition Move tool, there was a bit of a conflict. It wouldn't cause too many problems, but it's not really ideal to have it this way. So in order to address all of this, in 2025, we have moved the Move manipulator to its own separate button. So your selection operation is separate. Move is not gonna come in your way when you make your or modify your selection. And you can middle click or change the focus to this button by clicking on it, and vice versa. When you are now interacting with the move tool, you don't have the problem of accidentally modifying or removing or adding to selection by mistake. So this is sort of the crux of the change, and as it's an important one because as a consequence of this, we were now able to support shortcuts on the move manipulator itself. So I can now, let's say I want to move this part along a vector that's defined by two locations. I can pick this part, middle click, I hold control and pick these 2 points. You can see that my x-axis is already aligned along these 2 points. And from here on, I can enter a value, drag, or do whatever, any of the other methods to interact or manipulate this model. Similarly, you can pick 3 points to translate along plane. So let's say I wanted to translate the elements around this plane. So I can hold control, pick 1, 2, 3, and you can see that my x-axis of this manipulator is now aligned towards the normal of this plane that I picked. And from here, I can, let's say, increment and correct, move my elements. You can also do rotate. So if I want to, let's say, rotate the nodes around this model, I can pick any of these rotators here. So once I have a rotator active, I can hold control, and the same to step 1, 2, and 3. And you can see now that my rotator is now aligned along the axis of this hole, and I can modify and adjust these nodes. You don't always have to have a manipulator active. I mean to say is you can just pick if you just wanted to move something by 2 points, you can just pick the object, in this case, just this element, middle click, and immediately when I hold control, we are going to this highlight, which kind of shows already what we're going to do. We're going to reposition or reorient the x-axis of the manipulator. So I can just pick these 2 locations. We automatically calculate the distance between those 2 points and add them to the increment field for you. You can optionally edit and put in your own value here, or if you wanted to use this value, so you could put this and adjust your element like this. So once you have orientation and a position set, it's saved. So you could go back, modify your selection, and come back, and it is saved for you. Likewise, if you also go to a pushable tool, come back and orient. The orientation and the position is still saved. Last couple of points that I want to make over here. You might have faced this when you're working earlier, that especially if you're focused on a particular feature on the model and you try to move it, many a times the move manipulator used to be away from the screen because you draw it at the CG of the selection. So you'll have to zoom out, hold shift, and drag it back to the screen. But now with the control shortcuts, you can leverage it to quickly hold control and bring it to the location that you want to, or along the plane, or to continue and further work on your model. So besides that, the last point that I want to make here, so these changes are in the move manipulator module itself. So you could leverage them in any of the other tools. For example, if you wanted to replicate this feature, you can hold control here, these 2 points. You can see that my x-axis already aligned with the direction that I wanted, and I have the distance between those 2 points set. Let's say I want 3 and plus and replicate. Just something to remember that you could leverage and make use of these options in any of the places, any other tools which use the move manipulator from the core HM framework. So that should be about it. That should be my presentation. Thank you, and I'll pass it on to Chima, who will be taking over the rest of the slides.
So I'll follow up with a few additional enhancements to selection and copilot. So I'll go ahead. So the first thing I wanted to mention is a new selection, advanced selection that we have for geometry, which is basically bringing all the, most of these are topology based, but there's a few with solids also by mappable, and we're calling this by type. I'll do a quick demo with this model. And this is available for lines, points, solids, and surfaces. So if I want to select my lines, here I have a model that intentionally has a variety of every kind of thing, just for the purposes of this demo. So if I go to my select menu, or if I hit the advanced selection shortcut, or click the dot, 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 I can go to this by type selection. And in the case of lines, I can see them categorized by free lines, in this case, these guys, which are free geometry lines. I have free edges, which are the outlines of my surfaces, shared edges in both surfaces and solids, and then I have non-manifold edges and also suppressed edges here in these little dotted guys in the solid are suppressed. I think those are the only ones in the model. I can see here the count as well too. It's added here. The check boxes work the same as other similar selection types that are for lists. You can add them, remove them. If you have a previous selection before this and come in here, you'll see them in this state. You can add or override them here in the categories. If these methods also support the quick advanced selection, so here again I have my syncing options. So the fact that I already used them means that they're now synced to Alt. So holding Alt and picking a type will select all of that type. So if I select this with Alt, it'll select all of the free lines. Same here, all my shared. If I wanted to find all my free edges, you can click and it'll automatically highlight the free edges. And from there, you can do an isolate, save, etc. For points, we have a similar situation. We have type, we have vertices, fixed points, and also free points, etc. So I won't go through each one, but here's the categories. So for surfaces, we also have free bounding, partition, and fin surfaces, which are the ones that when you cut a solid, but it doesn't go through, it creates these fins, which in topology mode are shown in red. And then for solids, it categorized them by mappable. So that's what the API gives us. So we applied it same here. So that's available now. One other change that we did for by part. So historically, there had been a few kind of weird selection types like morph domains and loads, things that could be selected by part in the past. But this was incorrect because you cannot categorize morph domains by part. And actually, morph domains can have nodes across parts, and so it was not accurate, and it was not representing the actual true organization of parts. So this selection has been synced. Just kind of like an FYI, there were some methods that you might see that an entity might not allow you to select by part anymore. So that is because it was problematic because of this thing. So we're trying to keep it synced to only the entities that are allowed to be organized by parts. And just one comment in the Abacus user profiles, there's a couple more that are allowed because of the use case of parts and instances. But other than that, the list should be as shown here. Just another change. Another enhancement here, the quick selection that we had that option to sync, to keep the advanced selection and the alt selection synced with this check mark. But we had the issue that this was not saving across sessions. So that has been enhanced now. So this option now does save across sessions. So if you do turn it off and then close your session and reopen it, it will stay off. So you don't have to go and turn it off again if your alt selection keeps changing when you use the full dialog. Another small enhancement that things shuffled a little bit if you had like a little bit of muscle memory in this one, but that's just because we alphabetized it, which was the correct way of doing it. So now all the lists are alphabetized. This is the same that we do with the actual selectors. And then we also added support for parts. So this was not there before. So now you can select parts. In the quick advanced selection, the only method that allows you to pick in graphics is subsystems. So now you can, that's the one that you can assign now. So with Alt, you can select parts by subsystem. Another small enhancement for the search tool, we added a method that lets us point to specific configurations within tools. And that has been added to 2 of them for 2025. So if you search for, normally if you search for the find tool, but if you want to search specifically for nearby, it would send you, it would still send you to the find tool, but it wouldn't change the configuration for nearby. So if you were in find attached to, it would, if I were here in the find tool, the default is attached to, it would launch in that configuration in 24.1. So if I search find attached, this one find tool, it would send you to this even if you typed nearby. Now, if you do type nearby, it's going to be a different item here, find nearby. And if you launch it, it'll take you to the same tool, but it'll automatically switch to nearby mode. And the same with position. So if I search for a position, besides the move tool, we have the position tool, and it'll basically launch the move tool and switch it to position mode if you want to move from sources to targets instead of interactively. So that's available now, and the infrastructure is there. So I can see hopefully adding more of these tools to take us to specific configurations within tools in the future. Jumping to the copilot, so we are continuing with the beta Altair copilot assistant inside our HyperWorks applications. 2025 is still in beta. There's still things and many improvements that are happening in the background that we are hoping to bring online very soon. We are tentatively targeting for 2025.1 maybe to removing the beta and have like the actual full release. For 2025, we have Inspire now, so we're very excited to have Inspire join the beta for this. So it will be available in Inspire starting 2025. Similar to what we had in HyperMesh and the other HyperMesh-based apps. It has all the help, online help and support content, e-learning packages, and it also supports the keyword hashtag script. If you use that, it'll output Inspire Python API. You can ask it to try to create some scripts for you, or you can also ask it for help about scripting. So you can ask about commands, about arguments that certain commands take, how to use them, etc. Everything that is documented for them would be available here. Another update here, and I'll show a little recording here with some demos of the Copilot working in Inspire. There's also a new licensing feature for the chatbot that is starting in 2025. So if you request a license for 2025, you'll notice a new feature name. It's called Altair Copilot HyperWorks, and it is drawing 2 Altair units. So this is a demo of the chatbot in Inspire. Here I'm asking what is the difference between sweep and loft. So I'll start with just regular support questions. Here it's giving me an answer comparing sweep, a little summary of sweep and loft. Now I'm asking, where is this tool? Where is the loft tool? It says it's in the geometry ribbon. It may be hidden in the drop-down menu. So that's the key answer here. So now I can find it. And just like it works in HyperMesh, if you used it there, maybe you're familiar. Once I'm in the tool, I can also ask about things in the tool. What is the arc length profiles inside it? And here it's found it. Tells me about this option. We've also increased the performance of this, so the time to respond is not sped up in this video. I'm just speeding up my typing here, but the rest of the processing is one-to-one, so the responses are faster than before. What is implicit modeling? I'm asking now. How do I get started with it? So you can ask it to give you lists of things to do. Here's giving me some recommendations on what steps to take to get started with implicit geometry. And then finally, I'm going to ask it for a scripted answer. Please create a surface lattice, the shape of a cuboid with size 5 on all sides, hashtag script. So that's the key, so that the answer is in the form of a script. Pop up the Python window here. This is a new feature as well. So we have this copy code button. Whenever the answer contains a code snippet, it's detected, and that button lets you, with a single click, copy the code. So you can paste it and run it. In that case, created the cube with a surface lattice geometry. So yeah, we have that copy to clipboard is this little guy here. It only appears if you have code in the output. So the same if you're in HyperMesh and ask for a TCL output, that button will also appear, and it copies it to the clipboard with a click. Yeah, and like I kind of mentioned along the way, we also have some bug fixes and improvements, some performance and robustness. There's more coming soon, of course, as we try to get out of beta. We improved a little bit, I think, in 24.1. Some of the apps we were struggling to detect correctly, the correct app and the profile. I think in HyperLife it was happening. So all those have been fixed now. We have improved app and profile detection. Like before, what we do is we detect the app that you're in, and we also detect if you have a solver profile, like if you're in HyperMesh, OptiStruct versus Radios, etc. And we include that solver help in the answers as well. So this is just for help filtering, so you don't get answers from a different solver or a different application. There's also an advanced way to overwrite this, by the way. We also have advanced filters, which this is kind of an advanced thing. But if you were in HyperMesh, similar to hashtag script, if you actually write hashtag inspire, you can get inspire results from it. So you can override the filter using that hashtag or hashtag HyperMesh. Any product name you can type if you're curious to see if another app has the answer to your profile, to your question. You can do that by overriding with that same command, hashtag product name. We've improved also a little bit the out of context reply. So before, if it didn't find an answer, it would give you a very, very kind of automated message just saying that the context doesn't include your answer. Now we've added a few more useful messages when the chatbot thinks that you're asking something that is of a different topic, that it doesn't know anything about it, that is not HyperWorks related. It'll say that he can only answer, or he or she, that it, I don't know what it is, that it can only answer support questions about HyperWorks. And more importantly, another enhancement that we did is if you ask a question about something that might be in the product, but maybe that it doesn't have the answer to, or that it doesn't exist. Here I invented something like folding the view. How do I fold the view? So it doesn't know how to respond that. It doesn't know how to fold the view, but it has information about changing the view controls and the mouse controls. So if that's the situation, it'll say that it doesn't have a good answer, but it'll still share some links that could be useful. So this is kind of like a search engine. In a search engine, you always get results regardless of if it's or not what you're looking for. So we still think that we have some related links, even though the exact terms of folding the view doesn't exist. It'll link you to, in this case, mouse controls and view controls, etc. So some useful links that might be useful. Some other small enhancements. The font was increased a little bit. It was unintentionally a little bit small, so it was refined and increased a little bit. And there were also some issues with colors and icons, especially in dark mode. So those have been improved as well. So now it should be much more readable and overall in dark theme compatible. So thank you.